Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Brad and Robin at Unveiling the Truth, and we're glad you're here. We have a very delicate subject we're going to talk to you about today, and it's actually a
Yes.
subject I think everybody's interested in. And usually when things are shown to me, I like to cover them, and I was just doing research, and it showed to me that they have DNA proof of who the Ripper is.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, I think that's something that would be good to cover. And Brad agreed to do it.
I agreed. Yeah, we
Yep.
haven't done anything true crime yet, and this
No.
is going to be our kind of our first true crime gig. And I was like, really?
Sure.
Because I was not familiar with the whole DNA case, and I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to put my nerd hat on because I was a criminal justice major, and we kind of did stuff like this and case
That's cool.
studies, and I went nerded out and went to the academic papers and stuff, and I was like, holy smoke,
Yeah.
DNA after all this time,
Yeah.
it goes to show you that is the fingerprint of who we are.
Well, and they didn't say that they started doing the DNA on this at 2019.
Yeah.
At least that's I read
Actually, I want to say earlier, they didn't release it until
oh, that's right.
2019.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'd like to start is kind of tell you the vicinity where these crimes happened before we get into the people and the who we think did the crime. Um, this is a place that is in London in 1888, and just to let you know a fact that this killer, Jack the Ripper, this whole story lasted 10 weeks and then it was stopped. That's what I got. Did you get something like that? I said 10 weeks, and 4 to 5 women and possibly more women could have
It
been.
was like from April or May until right before October. There were like five
Yes,
women in
it
that
was.
span of time or something like that.
Yeah, and yep. And it's in an area in London that's called, they called it Whitechapel because it's kind of the slum district of London. A lot of immigrants came in. They had a Jewish section, um, and a lot of poverty. I mean, just the worst of the worst of poverty, where
Yeah.
people just lived for the day. They didn't think ahead, because a lot of them didn't have jobs. They just had to go search out or search for food or whatever, even a bed. There's places that just rented out beds, and they were flea
Mm-hmm.
infested beds, soiled beds, and I think they said it was like 4 shillings a night just for a bed. And so
Yeah.
that actually is a contributor to these women that we'll go into that a little bit too. And they also stated that there's 12,000 prostitutes working in this Whitechapel area. And it wasn't
Mm.
a huge area.
No.
There's lots of crime. There's everything happened here. And just like
It's like going to Skid Row in Los Angeles. That
yes,
whole quadrant
or
of the
New York.
city is just, yeah, or New York. It's the whole quadrant of that city is just where the drugs, the crime,
Yes.
the adult trafficking, all that stuff is taking place. And it's kind of like, as long as it stays there, they kind of just turn their head.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I was working for this company at one time when I first moved here, and they flew us over to Los Angeles for training, and it was a fitness thing. And so me and 3 other girls went, and with the owners, and we stayed at a hotel just off the airport. And so they said, "Yeah, if you guys want to go walk around and stuff." So I go out with another girl, and I only walked for half a block, and then I stopped, turned around, and came back. There was so
Don't blame you.
much bad stuff. I mean, bad. I mean, I guess I just didn't, and it's so condensed, bad, 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 bad.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm not looking here. I'm gonna just go back into my hotel room and I'll watch a
Yeah,
movie.
Los Angeles is a rough town in
It
certain
was
areas,
bad.
and
Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely
And
right.
it's right by the airport. I go, it was not
And appa-
classy at all.
and
The
apparently,
hotel was.
and apparently, and this is kind of the thing that I think a lot of Westerners don't realize is when you go to England or Europe or Paris, these big cities that draw in lots of
Mhm.
tourists and there's lots of commerce, people are kind of enamored with the culture and they're traveling overseas to these historical cities that everything is kind of just accommodating. It's like, well, uh, London has some really rough spots. Paris
Yeah,
has some really rough spots.
yeah,
Rome and Milan have some really rough spots. So it's not just the big cities in the United States that are bad. There's big
yeah.
cities all over the world that are bad.
Everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. And because it's been happening for a long time. And they
Mm.
also said the youngest prostitute at, in this area, that 6-year-old girls were prostituted.
Really?
So
Okay, that's
yeah,
news to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Jesus.
That one video I sent you of the lady walking
Oh,
around
okay.
giving
Yeah.
the info, she said the youngest prostitute known was a 6-year-old. And
Jesus
so
Christ.
is that sad? So this was a
That's beyond
really,
sad because that happens now.
I know. And so anyway, so that's just a little bit of taste for where these women lived and possibly the person that was named Jack the Ripper. And so it was Whitechapel. And the reason why it was called Whitechapel is because there's a Whitechapel, a Catholic diocese right
Go
there.
figure.
Yeah. And so they named it Whitechapel. And I go, and they said most of the prostitution was right around, it was like the Whitechapel was a whole block. And so the prostitution was all the way around, and men would just walk around the chapel and
Yeah.
choose their lady um of the night. So
How
anyway,
fun, how the irony there, a chapel, a religious area, and
yeah,
yet that's kind of where all this went down is close to a chapel. That's almost kind of well, it
you
is
think
sacrilegious and
you think the priest would
yeah.
go, okay, move along, stop putting that bad mojo right next to the
Yep.
chapel to, you think they would like say clean up the streets a little bit. But
No.
come to find out, that we will find out later, is that a lot of society didn't know how impoverished this area was.
Right.
And so we will kind of touch base on that a little bit. And um, so a lot of the place was rat infested, super poor, crime. Also said that the buildings were crumbling, that a lot of the buildings were deteriorating.
Condemned. Yeah.
Yeah. And but people were living in them. Um, and everybody was just trying to survive, basically. This was a survival mode. And if you're here, you had nothing. And they said
Yeah.
all the women that would rent beds, they wore all their clothes. Because they couldn't travel, they didn't have travel bags because they'd be stolen. So like if they had petticoats, like 5 petticoats, they'd be wearing 5 petticoats, 3 dresses. You know, they would be wearing all their clothes. So if I had 6 jeans, I'd be putting all my 6 jeans on
Wow.
because
No, I
you
didn't know
have,
that part. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
they
how would they
said,
fit over each other at some point? They
well,
would,
petticoats probably.
yeah.
But
Huh.
so maybe these women weren't large women, but they're wearing all their clothes because they're traveling from one bed to another. Because they would go into a place, knock on the door, and say, "You got a bed? Yeah, for 4 pence. You got 4 pence? Yeah, okay, you get the bed." Then you're out on the street again. So
These are the details that you don't hear about, but
yeah,
it puts so much in perspective of what a day in the life of, well, anybody in that area was. So
yeah,
even the men, were probably scrambling around to find some type of job, even if
yeah.
it
They
was a
said it
day
was easier for
laborer.
men. because
Yeah,
there's manufacturers and stuff like that. Yeah,
right. And they were probably day laborers and they were probably taken advantage of. So they probably worked them 19 hours a day, paid them practically
they
nothing.
did. Yes,
And
they
if you
did.
did have a family and you came home too, you probably, your money was gone by the end of the day just to feed whoever was in the
Yeah,
family, all to start over the next day. So they're hardworking people. And then to probably supplement a lot of that income, if any of these women had partners or kids or were looking to start a family,
yeah.
what's the quickest way to make a buck in a crime ridden area of the city? Well, the oldest
Yep.
profession in the world.
Well, that's all they had to sell.
Yep.
That's all they had. They had nothing, and that's all they had to sell. And to be honest with you, a common denominator of all these women is that they drank. They're alcoholics, pretty much. And
And there's probably a reason
and
for
that's how
that.
they, yeah. And they're kind of gave the assumption that they all went to this one pub, and so the um the Ripper could have been frequenting this pub and then would pick up one from the pub.
Mm-hmm.
But the pub, and then they said too, like, and these women would just get drunk off their gourds, and then they go to get their bed. And so they knock on the door, and there's a story of one of them went to get the bed. She goes, "Well, you have 4 pence." And she goes, "Oh, I only have three." And she goes, I'll get it tomorrow." And she goes, "No, you have to have four." She goes, "Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta go find a John so I could go pay for my bed." Um, but they said that a lot of these women made enough money for their bed, but then they went to the pub and they spent all their money on drinking.
And they
And so,
probably did that because self medicate, right?
yeah, well, of course.
I mean, self
And
medicate, and
depression, yeah,
also, I got to go do what I got to do. I don't exactly want to be sober when I'm doing this, so I might
yeah,
as well get drunk and try
yeah,
to not remember and be able to
to
handle
numb
it for
it.
the
Yeah,
night, and then all again, all to repeat the next day. So
exactly.
it's a terrible vicious cycle.
And I thought too, I go, how do you, those people couldn't have kept clean. There's no way. Because if you're just running in a bed, where do you shower? Where do you take a bath? Where do you go to the bathroom? Where do you wash your clothes? If you're wearing all your clothes, I go, the smell of this place, you guys, probably was atrocious
Yeah.
because there's
Where
no
did you,
sewer. They probably went into a pot and then they just dump it into the street or something. I don't know where they
yeah.
went. If anybody knows, let us know. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, no, no, they probably didn't brush their teeth on a normal basis.
no,
Um,
no. A lot of them were sick. Yeah, because you have the London fog, so it's really cold and, you know, um, misty and it's just a miserable place. So these were very unfortunate women. And the first, we're gonna, if you don't mind, Brad,
hmm,
we can go step by step with each woman.
sure.
Okay. So the first one that this man, um, it was a victim of this man, and I hate saying his name because I don't like to give him any notoriety, was Martha Tavrum, and my phone just turned off.
Do you want me to
And
bring up
she,
the slides?
yeah, I don't, do I have a slide of her? Oh, do
You
I
have
have
yeah, you have
is
a
she in the
slide of them.
slide? Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's pull up the ladies. And she was in the east part of London, and she was the first victim, they believe, of the Ripper. And this guy just did mean stuff. And I thought, as I was studying this out, he always started with the throat. And I really feel bad because we just had an event in the United States in Hollywood of the same kind of thing. And and it's going to be very interesting because schizophrenia is going to be a key component to this Ripper guy.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Mary, I don't think Mary Tabram is on this one. Because I thought Mary Nichols was the first one,
Is
but she's not.
is it the same? These aren't the canonical
Oh, and this
five?
is Martha Tabram. Yeah, no, keep that up. That's fine.
Okay.
So anyway, she's the first victim, and you will find out that most of these women were married at one time, and unfortunately, something would happen that their husbands would leave them, and a lot of these women had children, and it
Mhm.
doesn't state what happened to the children. So I don't know if the children were put into homes, whatever orphanages,
Custody.
or
Yeah, yeah,
if the husband kept them, but the women usually didn't keep their children. So the women that are here had children, and some of them had several children, but they didn't have the children with
yeah.
them.
A lot of time,
So
I don't know if they had the court system like we have now. I think basically like the grandparents would take them, or an aunt or an uncle. They'd take them into their family, or dad would take them. But yeah, they weren't
yeah.
in full custody.
So this first victim, she was married, um, and it's very interesting because a lot of times they say the husband left them, the woman, because she was a drinker. And so I went, okay. And she would have alcoholic fits. So her husband, I guess divorce was around in the 1800s. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So, yeah. And
it's
so
been around a
she,
while. It's just probably a lot easier because I think the Church of England, it was easier to get divorced. I don't know if it's the Anglican or Episcopalian or Church of England back then than it was
yeah,
with, say, the Catholic Church.
of course, yeah. Yeah, it's just, and so she just was a victim of society and alcoholism. You're going to find out that almost all these women, almost all of them are alcoholics. And then she found herself here and as a prostitute. A lot of times they just prostituted to get enough money for survival. And and then at the end of this, I'm gonna talk to you about the very last victim. I was telling Brad that I had an episode of someone in my house, visiting me. I always call it a visitor. And I had like a hand coming down my shirt, and I could see the hand coming down, and I thought it was a spider
Oh.
at first, and I wanted to go like that, and I realized it was a hand. I went, oh. So I
Was it
jump off my couch.
transparent? Was it, or was it
It was
transparent?
solid. It was
It was solid.
solid. That's what
Oh,
scared me so bad. So I fly off the couch because I thought, what the heck? And then I'm looking around. There's no one here. So what I normally do then, I know it's a spirit, and I don't like them to manifest to me. And she was manifesting. And so it's the last victim, and she wanted to talk. And so I allowed her to talk. And so I did an automatic writing. And she told me her event of what happened. So we will go through that at the end. Um,
yeah.
and it was very strong. I mean, someone to show me their hand. Oh, I don't like that.
People like to reach out and um,
Touch someone.
you and use Robin as a sounding board. This isn't the first time. So
No, this is how it
yeah,
works with me.
this is how it works with her.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So if I ever am with somebody, they're gonna have to get used to things happening
Yeah.
in my life because it happens. So anyway, I don't know how deep we want to go into what happened to her, but she was the first victim, this Martha Tabram. And let me see, she was actually just a really nice looking lady. I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can see my phone, but
No, I can put a picture up of her. I
okay.
thought these were
Yeah,
so
that one is I like this because it shows them alive. The
right.
Most of the pictures they have of them are deceased.
Okay.
And he did some cruel things to her but he always started with the throat. And I feel that he started with the throat because he didn't want them to cry out. And I think he And I think you guys, we have to really realize these are people. These women are unfortunate people in unfortunate times. And so they just deserve a lot of respect for they were just surviving. And I just feel like we need to have a lot of respect. So I don't want to go really deep into their crimes.
Yeah, and yeah, because it's almost borderline. It's not
I don't want to
exploitation per se.
sensationalize it.
You don't want
Yeah,
to sensationalize a very gory, brutal way to go, because these women suffered, and it was a and we'll get into it, but it was more of a personal sick thing, but nonetheless they suffered. And the sad
yes,
thing about it is, Robin's making a very good point, is these were marginalized women.
yes,
They weren't very well thought of in the socioeconomic class of England. So,
yes,
because of what they did where they lived, society in general was very snobby, or it still is, but I mean, it's very snobby and class based on what you did, who you were married to, where you lived. And knowing that a, a lot of people lived in the Whitechapel district, and nine out of probably 6 out of 10 women probably were of this profession, when they were taken from earth by the hands of a madman, nobody really
yeah.
cares, because it's like, well, she was just, she was a
The
hooker
lowest of the
in the,
class. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they don't care.
Well, and it's just, unfortunate. And as they said, in this one area, there's 12,000 prostitutes. That's a
That's a lot.
lot. And those are women trying to survive. And that's all they had to sell. So we need to understand that because this story is so sensationalized. And me being a psychic working on cold cases, you just have to give respect to the victims because these women have probably suffered a lot more than we know prior to even this event happening.
Right.
So then the next victim is Mary Ann Nichols. So she was taken in August of 1888. It was the end of August. And she was what you call a casual prostitute. She lived in a lodging house. Her marriage failed due to the frequent consumption of alcohol, so another
Mm.
alcohol problem.
Yep.
After this she started working the streets to make a living, and she was 43 years old. So back then, 43 was old. Nowadays we're going, I'd love to be 43, but
Yeah,
back
exactly. Yeah, me too.
so she was a 43-year-old English woman. She had 5 children,
Mm.
and her husband ran off with the midwife that delivered her fifth child. So
What a
super
slap in
sad.
the face on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And
And
just so we know, just to pay homage to Martha Tabram, this is Martha Tabram.
oh, there. Oh, yeah.
So I mean,
Thank
it
you.
it says in question, was it Jack's first victim? They don't know, but all fingers point to it. So really, if we count her on the list, that's six.
So the reason they think it's the first one, due to the date they found her and the way she was brutally murdered.
Same style. Yep.
And yeah, and then he would position the bodies and then he would put things around the body.
Yes.
So this was his decor of murder. So she was the first found in this way. So
He had a
then the second,
signature that left
yes,
he
he
left
did.
behind,
And
more
he
or
did
less.
this
Yeah.
on purpose, which, this is so really weird. They said there was no lighting here. So at night, there was no lamps, there was no street lights, everything was pitch black. So they
Yeah.
said that he had to have lived in the area because he had to know how to get from that place to home um, in pitch black darkness.
Yeah, no, they didn't have the LED timed photo cell lights that come on
Yes,
now. and they
No,
were lamps, and they usually didn't stay on very long. If they
they
did
didn't have
stay
any
on,
outside lamps there, they said.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, they
So they didn't
didn't.
have
No,
any.
because it's poor. They didn't light it at all.
So if you
They
had a
said
lamp, it was probably it was somebody's
you carry
business or
it.
home, and then they turned it off, or they put it by
Hmm.
the window and turned it off. But yeah, that makes sense. So navigating in the darkness, also moving under the cover of night, would make sense if you're going to be a predator. You're going to find your
Yeah,
prey easier at night, and especially women of this circumstance, intoxicated, inhibitions lowered. They're not situationally aware. That's like a lion or tiger or a pack of wolves, easy kill.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that, Brad. That's a great picture of her.
Yeah,
So
you didn't
on,
you didn't want to see the other one.
no, no, that's the one I have. So then Martha or Mary Ann Nichols, the second one, she was murdered on August 31st. So she did have five children. It didn't state where her children were, so I assumed they went to orphanage. So it did say that her husband did pay monthly alimony, and then he stopped paying. I guess this is a thing. She took him to court when he stopped paying, and he said he had her watched, and she was prostituting herself. So in England, that meant you didn't have to pay alimony anymore. So they took her alimony away because she was prostituting. So then he didn't have to pay anymore. Um, and she
Well, I
ended up,
mean,
go ahead.
it, think about today, if you had kids and you found out your wife was doing that with your kids or whatever. I mean, the
Yeah, well,
man's
it's,
kind of
yeah,
has an argument.
yeah. So I guess, but that kind of shocked me. In 1888, they had court over the alimony. I go, wow, I wonder how far back alimony went, you know? I
Or
just had
child
no
support.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she ended up in Trafalgar, the worst slum district, just trying to survive. Her body was discovered at a stable entrance. Stated that she was at a pub that night and could not pay for lodging, so she went to prostitute to get enough money for the lodging, to
Mm.
pay for a bed. Then they said she was so drunk that night that she was just barely could walk. And that's the last time she was seen alive. So he would position the bodies, every single victim, he put them on their back, and he always turned their head to one side. He always had their head turned to the side. Um, and then their legs were straight out, usually open. And then the throat was cut from ear to ear. And then he did a lot of damage to their abdomens and personal areas. And it seemed that he takes a piece of them home with him. And a lot of times it was either like the uterus or kidney
A
or
kidney,
something like that. He
which
kept,
we can touch on later.
which is a serial killer kind of thing to do.
Well, we do. You remember what happened with one of them
No,
and the
what?
kidney? Well, one. Okay, I'll jump in
Oh,
here. I hope it's not. I hope I'm
okay, go
not
ahead.
stealing thunder or spoiler alert. But I believe it was. I forgot which victim. It was either Catherine Eddowes or Mary Jane Kelly. I'm not sure. And I'll look it up here in a second.
Oh,
When he
put it in.
started, hmm?
Go ahead. Keep going.
No, when he started contacting the police, he
Oh,
sent a kidney to the police of one of them.
oh, I didn't read that. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that. Oh,
yeah.
okay. So
So
we'll get to the to that too. Of
I,
This is how the discovery of his name happened too. So we'll get, yeah, yeah. I didn't know that actually. Um, and then rumors started of because then there's two in a short period of time, women that were posed the same way. Either body parts or something was around them. Um, and they thought it was a Jewish man um, that called himself Leather Apron. And so they started thinking that it was some sort of Jewish man that his name was Leather Apron. So the Ripper got a whiff of this. And so on one of his killings, he folded up a leather apron and put it by her. So then everybody's going, oh, that's who it is. And but they didn't know who this.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
And that's a good
that
point
was,
because there were quite a few suspects that almost
yeah,
lost their freedom for this that were
yeah,
innocent. I think
yeah,
there's a list of like 10 or 8 or 10 of guys that were
yeah.
unfortunately interrogated and tried. I think a couple of them were actually tried for one of the
Yep, they didn't have an
murders.
alibi.
Yep.
The police were wanting to shut this down as fast as possible. And I agree. And so the rumor, those were the first rumors of this violence towards prostitutes. And it was pretty much that we know of, it was just prostitutes that he did this with.
Right.
So then we go to September 8th, 1888. Annie Chapman, the
Mm-hmm.
second one in this picture. She also lived in a lodge house. And then at 3 a.m., she was approached by the manager at this lodge house. And the manager said, hey, did you pay for your bed? And she goes, I'll pay you tomorrow. So they kick her out at 3 a.m. They put this lone woman out on the streets drunk and because she didn't pay her money for the bed. So she left the lodge house to scrape up money, which we know what that means, for a
Mm-hmm.
bed, and she was never seen again. They discovered her body at 5 to 6 a.m. She was heavily mutilated with also the throat cut. Her body was posed with objects around her body, and part of her female insides were put around her body also. So to me, this is so interesting how this guy can do this because this takes time to do this and
Yeah.
to do this around their bodies, and no one sees it. I know it's dark, but
Yeah,
and
no one
it,
sees it, and no, you would think a woman would be screaming at the top of her lungs for help or whatever. So
that's why he went for the throat.
I was going to say he probably cut the vocal
Yeah,
cords and
he did.
you yeah.
He went into their trachea. He went deep,
Yep.
and
You go to
to
the
be,
jugular, you're not talking. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and to be a little bit graphic, he would go from right, and then he'd do it again. So he'd go from right to left. So he was like sawing.
Mm,
So yes, he was preventing them from vocalizing, and that was one of the things. Then they thought at this time they found a man named John Pfizer, a Jewish man, and he was the man called the Leather Apron. He was 30
mhm.
years of age and he was arrested, like Brad said. He was questioned for 2 days. They kept him questioning him for 2 days, and then the police were convinced that he wasn't the killer because I think he had an alibi. So they did. The police were having a hard time, and the police weren't. Here they are in the slum, and they're trying to find the killer, and they have 12,000 prostitutes. Not all of them can watch all these women to see what's
Right.
happening, and there's no lighting. So I don't know if the police had lanterns, probably, to lit
So
to.
the police patrol today versus the police then, very different. You're talking about a whole quadrant of however many people, over 10,000 of them that were prostitutes. You probably had one Bobby or, Scotland Yard police officer walking around per so many
Yeah.
blocks. It's not like, hey, let's radio this guy to meet us here at this call. They usually responded when somebody blew a whistle or yelled out or ran up to them to get their attention,
Oh, that's true.
or
That's
the
true.
officer stumbled upon the crime later on, or some walker by found them and then went and notified them. So it's
Yeah.
rare for a cop to be around when you need one. kind of
True.
even people say that today. But you got to understand the patrol factor in the sector for so many people. Well, yeah, where's a cop when you need one when a poor woman is being bludgeoned?
Yeah.
He probably knew that. I mean, he probably knew the Bobby
He
or the cop
probably
was
knew.
10 blocks down.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're probably right. He probably watched the area and then he knew where he was going to lead the women to for the
Mm-hmm.
best. Oh, you're right.
The
That's true.
most, um, probably the last place you'd want to pick in Whitechapel district to be at 2 a.m. was where he chose to probably go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems, and also Annie Chapman, she was married. She was a 47-year-old woman at the time of the killing. She had three children, and her husband was disabled and sent to a home, and they both were alcoholics, it said.
The drink,
So,
it gets them
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. And, it was just so sad because look at that picture, she has a really pretty dress on and her hair's all done. So, they probably were doing okay, you know, in their life.
Yeah, he was. You said he was disabled, and then
It was
the hus-
disabled. They both were alcoholics, but he was disabled and sent to live in a home. So he couldn't
Okay.
make a living. And then she probably was out on the street. One of them, I don't know if it was her, but one of them was a really feisty woman, and she got in a lot of fights with other prostitutes. And
Not
so,
uncommon when you mix
yeah,
alcohol.
yeah. And so I'm thinking it was her, to be honest with you, that I
Hmm.
heard. So anyway, this John Pfizer that was the leather apron man that they were searching for, that they found out he wasn't the real deal. So then the police had to go to, then they had nothing. Then they just had nothing after that. They thought they had him, but that wasn't it. So then it was very interesting. So now we're in September 27th, 1888. An envelope
Mm-hmm.
arrived at the Central Newspaper Agency. This is what Brad was talking about. The letter was written to the boss of this newspaper. And so they opened it up and read it. And it basically said, "Good luck." At the end of this letter, it said, "Good luck, yours truly, Jack the Ripper." And so that's how we got the name Jack the Ripper because the murderer named himself. So
He named
he wanted
himself.
notoriety. He's going, "You guys aren't able to catch me, ha ha ha." And then so he sends this
And
letter
and
to
you
the
notice that
newspaper.
that is not. Excuse me. I like to do a compare and contrast
Yeah, that's
from
okay.
where we're at today, and that's not uncommon today,
No,
where these guys, mostly because it's mostly men, who serial kill, and they start to get the thrills, and they see the news blowing up with their crimes sensationalized, and they start taunting the media or the police or even like the victim's family. They'll send them letters too, I've heard.
yes,
And they then I think the only one that kind of went unsolved technically still today was the Zodiac killer. And if I mean, given today's date, he's probably since deceased physically, but I think he was the only one they have not caught. And he was notorious
mm,
for sending letters in code that
yeah,
the police were using. The BTK killer was another one who taunted the police until
yeah,
he was found. So they like to play cat and mouse, and that's also part of the profile,
narcissistic.
right? It is
Yeah,
narcissistic tendencies to
yeah,
have the attention, and it incites fear in the entire city or what have you. And especially if the demographic of victims is marginalized women in this line of work, that
hmm,
really puts the word on the streets. Hey, you should probably not be doing this anymore, or move or do something, but
They
yet
couldn't. Yeah.
they could exactly they couldn't
Yeah. They
because
couldn't do it.
otherwise
They
that
didn't have
meant they were homeless and dead
it.
anyways or sick or
Yeah.
what have you or hungry. So they had to do it, maybe crossing fingers hoping nothing would happen.
And I can't remember which woman it was. That's true, Brad. She had tuberculosis, and they said when they did her autopsy that she would have been dead in a week anyway. Um, but
I
yeah,
think it was
so a lot of these
Chapman.
women were sick. Was it Annie Chapman that had
Yeah,
tuberculosis?
Chapman was in. They said she was
Okay.
in very. Her health was failing and on a significant decline, and she was one who would get into bar fights.
Oh, she's the one. Okay.
Uh huh.
Yep.
Yep.
And I just thinking, this is just me. I mean, I don't know this lifestyle, but I don't think I would choose someone that's really deathly ill to go hang with. I mean,
I don't know if the men knew that.
well, wouldn't you be, isn't TV, when you be coughing and
Yeah,
and
that's true. You'd
spitting
be
up blood,
coughing
you know?
blood too. Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
in
I
your
just kind
last
of going,
stages, yeah,
I go, okay, I don't want her because she's like
yeah,
way sick. I don't know. I don't know.
and it's
But
contagious.
yeah, exactly. Another thing. So I guess I don't know. So let's go to Elizabeth Stride. So then, just days later, after he sent this letter to the newspaper on the 27th, then the next victim was found on the 30th. She was 44 years old, prostitute. She was seen at 11 p.m. drinking with an unknown man. Then at 12:45, seen she was talking to a stranger outside. And this is where they got a little bit of information that she was with a man that was about 5'7" to 5'9" tall, wearing a long trench coat. That's where they get this trench coat thing from, that reached almost to his heels. Um, so she had the same type of what do I want to say? Sim the coat,
Like,
the throat was cut.
oh yeah, the same signature
Yes, yeah, signature,
kill. Mm-hmm.
and that he also liked to smear the blood and put it
Yeah,
like on their hands. I mean, he was just doing crazy stuff, scattering objects around them, smearing the blood was another thing. So you have to think then if he's smearing the blood, and obviously doing this, there's a lot of blood
a
that
lot.
they said. Now, this lady that was doing the video I showed you that she's walking around, there's a video out there of a lady that kind of gives you a synopsis of the day in and day out of the Ripper. Um,
Right.
they said that it wasn't odd to see a man walking down the road with a lot of blood on him because there's a slaughterhouse. It had the biggest slaughterhouse
Oh,
by
okay.
there. And so a lot of the men are coming home from work, and because they are slaughtering the
The
animals,
butchers. Yeah,
the
yeah.
butchers, well, they call it slaughterhouse, and they were drenched in blood. And so they said it wasn't not unnormal to have men walking around that
That
had
makes
blood on them.
sense. I mean, that makes
Yeah,
sense. You assume, oh, he just got off of work from the slaughterhouse,
yeah.
so yeah.
So he could get away with this because it was just kind of a
And,
normal thing,
yeah, say,
you
yeah, I
know?
got blood. I mean, I cut up the meat for the butchers. I mean, yeah, what do you expect?
Yeah, yeah. Or did the animals. So yeah, so I was just thinking, how does a guy walk home with all this blood on him? And she totally made sense that there's a slaughterhouse, and that's where a lot of the men worked. They would just go for the day, and they said they were like work like like Brad said, 10 to 16 hours a day for
Mm-hmm.
their pay, and they would work in the slaughterhouse. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a good point that you made about the way the Ripper afterwards, when he made his exit, he left. It was some profile serial killers if you do research, they like a really clean kind of scene left behind, and some of them leave a note or a smiley face or something like that. But
Yeah.
he was he was very messy, but yet
Well,
organized at the same time on purpose. So it was like chaotic mutilation, but organized. So it was a patterned way of doing
yes.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, how can it not be a bloody crime scene if the gore and
And
the
he
neck
would
are
slit
being
them.
basically, yeah,
He
yeah,
would slit the women from the top, bottom all the way up to their breasts. I mean, he would slit them open. I mean, I'm sorry to be
eviscerated them.
graphic, guys, but
No, that's
um,
true. That's what they call it.
that
I think,
is
believe is
just,
evisceration. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, um, yeah, and it's just it. I personally think that someone might have seen him do this, and they just will walk on their way. Like, I'm not looking at this, and I'm not going to say anything. When you live in a crime area and you see a killing or something, and you just back away and you walk away and said, I'm not involved, and I'm not going to say anything, and because you don't want to bring attention to yourself, But I think someone had to, in this time frame, had to see something,
Sure. And there, like you said,
and
the fear of it was, I don't one, I don't want them to show up and think it's me. Two, maybe the the perpetrator's watching and sees me talking to the cops, so now
yeah,
I may be seen as a rat. Um, but still, that's awful. That's not doing anyone justice, and that happens today. People stand by where there's crimes going on, or people are being kidnapped, or people are being beaten or to death, and
yeah.
nobody intervenes.
Have you
Nobody
seen those?
intervenes.
Have you seen those videos? And this guy, it's a setup. This guy, there's a boy like standing on the street on sidewalk, and this guy comes up, puts his hand over the kid's mouth, and drags him into a dark alley while people are walking by. Have you seen those videos?
No, it was
And they do
like a
it,
social experiment.
yeah, and they do it to see what if anybody would help.
And nobody did
Only
anything.
you want to know, no. A lot of people will kind of look and go, huh, and then they keep going on the way. It was women. It was women like mothers that would
Mama
ran
bears.
down that alley towards that guy, and then he's going, okay, okay, this is just a setup, and the kid's going, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was like it was amazing to see how feisty some women will go right after it.
Well, mama bear,
Is
I mean, they will
Yeah,
kill to protect
I
their
would go
kid.
out
And
if
if
I
it's,
saw that man.
yeah,
I would be right on him. He would not
same.
be. I don't know what I would do, but I would not let that go. You
Yeah, it's
know.
like one of those things where, hey, dude, you might want to watch what kind of experiment you're doing, because if you did something like that in Texas, you might get shot.
I know.
Even though it's a social experiment, you're going to probably get
Yeah,
yourself shot. So,
yeah.
yeah, but
They
yeah,
probably,
it's kind of
yeah.
funny.
I'm sure they've gotten harmed before because it is actually, but it was very interesting how many people did ignore the subject matter,
That's awful.
where a crime is actually happening in front of your face and you ignore it. I don't think I could live with myself if,
Oh,
especially
I
for a
could not
child.
either,
Yeah,
especially
especially for a child.
a kid. Exactly.
Yeah. So I thought that's off the subject, but
But
so
yeah, you're right.
anyway,
Good
then
point.
after Elizabeth Stride on September 30th, this killer is escalating. He decides to kill again that very same night. And that same night, a few miles west, the killer struck again, Catherine Eddowes, which we
Mm-hmm.
see with her bonnet. She was 46 years old, prostitute. He did kill her the same way. Um, but what was weird is hours before her murder, she was arrested for drunkenness about 8 p.m.,
Mm-hmm.
placed in a cell to sleep it off, and then released at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
to go
Bishopsgate
wherever.
Police Station. Yeah,
So
she
the
was
police
let
just let
out.
her go in the middle of the morning.
It's like dry up
There's
and
a
get
killer
out.
out there.
Yeah. Wow.
So she was seen 3 hours later talking to a strange man after she got out. And then they found her positioned on her back, legs spread. And then it seems like he liked to pull their dresses up. And then her insides, I don't know if I should say this, part of her insides he put in her mouth, stuffed in her mouth,
And he
all the way down her
disemboweled
throat.
and took the entrails
Yeah,
and
and
orally stuffed them. Yeah, unfortunately, that's how you got to say it, but that's what it is. That's
yeah.
what happened.
And on this one, there was knife wounds to her face. Then he just started escalating. Um, and just then the police are just going, this is the most horrific. This is just so horrific. We got to get this guy. And he seemed, I wrote down, it said that it seems like he liked to take their wombs as a souvenir. He liked to take women's wombs as their souvenir.
Yeah, and this is the
Um,
one that he took a kidney too.
oh, maybe. Okay, is it?
Mm-hmm.
He took her kidney to send.
Yep.
So interesting, during this time, the newspaper on October 1st, they posted the letter of Jack the Ripper that was sent to them. So now all of London knows what's going on. It went public because they thought if they do this, maybe it'll stop people from but what happened is people from all around the area toured the killing sites like a carnival. So all these
Yeah.
wealthy people, all these other people are coming into the poor town and they want to tour the sites where these murders were. And um, it was like a carnival, they said, that, um, that they were,
It's like you're romanticizing
it
the
was just like,
crime, and it's like, ooh, look at this. Let's go over there and see what's going on. And it's not even a morbid curiosity kind of doing your homework in your area to find out what's going on and educating yourself. It's more or less borderline entertainment value to these people.
I don't know how, I don't,
I mean, well,
I don't know.
circus, if it's like a circus,
Yeah.
you go to a circus to
And
be entertained.
I'm sure people are standing there making money. Here, give me 4 pence and I will show you where it is. Follow me. You got five
Capitalize
seconds
on
to
it.
look at
Yeah.
it. And they
Jesus.
said basically how they clean the crime scene. The police, they took a bucket of water. Boom. That's how they clean the crime scene.
And that's a good point right there is the crime scene, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't.
Is the crime scenes aren't treated like crime scenes are today. No
No.
way in hell. You've got people walking in and out of the crime scene, stepping on evidence. So their soles of their shoes probably had blood and DNA and all kind of
Of
tissue
course.
on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They when you touch something, you usually take something away. If you enter a crime scene and you leave a crime scene, even if you're a forensic investigator, you're usually taking something with you. So today there would be hair and DNA, fingernails, toenails, skin, whatever you call it,
Yeah.
saliva, bodily fluids, and they would secure the scene, preserve it as best as they can, have a chain of command as to who saw what, and then the detectives would come in and the evidence team and gather anything and everything, take as many photographs as
Yeah.
possible. And they did take photographs. They took some
They
photographs of
did
the crime
here.
scene
Yeah.
based on the photos that the photography they had then, but
Yeah.
they didn't, when they took evidence, it wasn't like, okay, this is going in this bag and we're marking it whatever, evidence number one. Now they bag and tag every individual thing so it's separated, so it can be individually analyzed, so it can be traced back. They were just handing stuff to one cop would give it to the captain, then he'd go to the station and put it in a cabinet. There was no
So,
chain of custody, really.
but luckily, and this is how we'll end this, but not yet, but luckily, that's how we got DNA evidence of who the actual killer is.
Hmm.
So we'll cover that in a little bit, you guys. So hang on that one because
Yeah.
that's luckily someone took a piece of evidence home and it lasted to this day.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
um, yeah. And so, and then they said that during this, all these people out from the outside area coming into the slums here and wanting to see where, have a tour of where the victims, and they actually have tours to this day. So you can't say anything because
Hmm.
people are doing tours to this day. They had an impact. It had an impact on the investigation, um, because then hundreds of Jack the Ripper letters started pouring in. So everybody is now Jack the Ripper. The police were ridiculed because they were not getting anywhere. And then they said in the month of October, there was no murders. So Jack the Ripper went undercover for a little while because probably everybody was coming into town to see, you know.
Hmm. No, that's
So
true.
then, go ahead.
They don't. He if he's smart, he's going to stay as far away as he can, so he's not pinpointed or even recognized anywhere.
Well, and he started it, he's the
Yes,
one that gave the letter to the prominent newspaper and named himself Jack the Ripper. And so no one named him, but he named himself Jack the Ripper.
and he sent another
Um,
letter.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Do you remember that one?
and no, go ahead and tell me about that one. I don't.
So I believe it was the Catherine Eddowes case where he sent a box and a letter to one of the chiefs or captains of Scotland Yard. I don't remember the ranking official in the police department, but he sent either the kidney or a piece of the kidney. And the letter was signed, it was like, it said from hell. And then he
Oh, wow.
enclosed his gift. So
Wow.
that tells you right there that he's not done taunting people. It's just that he's being more careful and he's letting them know you haven't caught me yet. You you don't know, basically you don't know when I'm going to strike next.
And it
Yeah.
shows you his insanity.
Oh yeah.
This is not a well person. This is
No.
an insane man. And we'll get into that too. I didn't know that. I didn't hear, I
Mm-hmm.
missed that one. So then in the second week in November, the Ripper strikes again. And then we have Mary Jane Kelly. And this
Mm.
poor young woman is the one that visited me. She was only 25 years old. She was Irish descent, and she was living in the worst slum area of London. So she was in the worst part, not in the bad part like these women. She was in the worst part.
Mm.
November 9th, 1888, her body was found in her room. He did horrible things to her face and body. Uh, beyond the police could not recognize who this was because he dissected her body everywhere. And the only reason they knew who she was is because someone had seen these clothes, the clothes that she had on. And so that's how they recognized her. So, do you want me to go into my channeling session on her, or do you want to wait?
On Mary Jane Kelly,
Yeah.
we can. Yeah, no, this is the perfect time to bring it up.
Okay. Okay. So the other night she was here, and she's actually a really beautiful woman. And she said that she went to the pubs a lot. She drinking was just a thing. Everybody, and they didn't eat. She said they would drink, and so that would kill the hunger pains. So to me, I would rather eat than drink. But to them, drinking it stopped the pain and it stopped any hunger pains that they may have. So Mary was a beautiful blue-eyed woman of 25. She did prostitute for a living. She told me her room per day cost about $1.20 in USA money, she said. In US currency in 1888. The acts she performed, oh, she went deep into it. Well, you all know what prostitutes do. So she performed everything. Whatever the man wanted, she would do it. She said the most requested was missionary style, she said. Um, and she would perform, she called it perform, 4 men a day at $1
Mm.
each in US currency. So she would have enough money to keep her room. And so she said all I had to do is do 4 Johns, which she did really well because she was young and pretty. And a lot of the men, she had a lot of frequent Johns. She says she didn't hate it. It was just an exchange, she said. And she was from Ireland, so she had lived, I think she lived, oh, I'm going off of something else, but she had lived in France. So she prostituted her way to here and then ended up in the worst part of the area.
I think she had a boyfriend too.
She did, but they fought a lot. And so he wasn't around at this time.
And she was a singer. She every now and then she was able to get a gig singing because
Oh,
she
did
was a
she?
very yeah, apparently she was a very good once she like you said, she was pretty and young and she
Yeah,
had a very good voice. And I think that's what she was trying to do was find
mm,
some of these
that's right. She
bars and
did sing.
pubs
Okay.
where she would sing and she every
Hmm.
now and then would get a gig singing and of course it didn't
Hmm.
last long so you in between you do what you got to do according to her and
Yeah.
yeah but she was talented pretty and yeah I guess yeah the boyfriend or the partner she had was they were kind of on and off like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think they were at an off time because she was alone, and she would bring these guys to her room. So, oh,
Yeah.
actually, she'll tell you exactly what happened. Okay, so it was just an exchange. She felt lucky. She was so pretty, and many men, of all statures wanted her. Some men were faithful clients of hers until that day. She called it that day. I
Mm.
met him in the bar I frequent, to pick up John's. So she would go to the bar to pick up John's. He was somewhat handsome, charming, and a bit strange, but he wanted me for hours. And he was going to pay me 60 cents, our money, per hour. So
Mm.
she started thinking, which meant I only had to see 2 more men that night to keep my room. So she went, okay. I was fine with this exchange. When we got into my room, he was fully excited without me even touching him. Then he looked at me with an animalistic way, as if he was a cougar and I was his next meal. My heart stopped. You can sense these things when you are in danger. He
Mm.
told me to turn around. I said no and tried to give him his money back and end it. He smiled and pulled out a sack of coins and set it on my table. He said he won't hurt me. Let's see, he won't hurt me. He just likes his act rough.
Mm.
With that money, she said, and I can just see her looking at the table at that coin sack of coins. She said, with that money, I could maybe get out of this horrible stench of a place. And so she said, I can withstand rough, for 2 hours of my life, she said. So that's how she justified it. So I
Mm.
agreed. He took off his hat and cape. He took off his shirt, then his trousers, and folded everything perfectly on my table. He had me face the wall as he opened he had a satchel with him, his large satchel. She said leather, I think. I asked him if he wanted me to undress, and he said no. He wanted to do that. He drew near to me. I felt his body press against me, his breath on the back of my neck. Then his arms came around, one hand over my mouth while he slit my throat with a large knife. I gurgled and then died. I saw him carry my body over to my bed and perform much atrocities to my poor, beautiful body.
Mm.
This was a hate, evil act against women, as it was also a naughty act for him. You and I were talking about that, Brad. And I
Yep.
saw him as a child. His father whipped him with a belt, and his mother coddled him, forcing him as a young boy to do things to her that was disgusting. Then
Uh,
I left this hellish place, and forever now, let's see, hold on. I left this hellish place and forever. Know what, not sure what she meant. Know what he did to me. So I guess forever she will know what he did to her. He still walks this earth with the world worst. Okay, he still walks this earth with world's murderers as he whispers into their mentally deranged minds. So basically, what she's saying is he didn't leave this planet. It's kind of like what Brad and I were talking about, that some people do not leave this planet. They go into interdimensional, and they're able
ah,
to. So they're able to seek out people like them. So he
like
seeks
Return
out
from
people.
Tomorrow, kind of that
Yeah,
that case
yeah.
scenario. Yeah.
And so he seeks out people that are awful like this, and he whispers in their ears. So,
Mm,
when you, because I think schizophrenia and mental illnesses, a lot of times when you hear people doing bad things to other people, you will hear them that they hear voices. They tell the police,
yeah.
"I hear voices. The voices told me to do this." You hear that a lot.
Yes. Schizophrenia is, and that's the kind of thing where the mental illness aspect comes into this, and it's not to be overlooked. And this is not saying everybody who's schizophrenic is violent and sadistic like this. However, to
Yeah.
Robin's point, the voices aspect, the auditory hallucinations, that is a common thing with schizophrenia symptoms. And
Or
the
mental illness. Yeah.
or mental illness, but
Right.
especially
Yeah.
schizophrenics, because they hallucinate, auditory hallucinations. Sometimes they see stuff. Paranoia. They're delusional. They don't want to eat. I've heard they don't want to eat or drink anything because they think people are trying to poison them. And there's even the documented cases of misogynistic ideation. So all of a sudden, if you're a male and you're schizophrenic and you've got this disdain and these hallucinations, you think women are all bad and you need to do something to hurt them. So it
Yeah.
manifests with those symptoms that intersect with the whole misogyny aspect, and then they take it on as gender-based violence, and instead of just basic gender-based violence, it becomes gender-based serial killing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that is a social blind spot. That is why,
That's a good way to say
especially
it.
in the time, yeah, the Victorian
Yeah.
times, if you were mentally ill and you had this, you were overlooked as, oh, he's not right, he's not well, he's just sick or ill or whatever. He's harmless because he doesn't know what he's doing or thinking. So it's a social blind spot. They overlook it. That's why I'm serial killers today, they're charming, good looking. No one thinks anything.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yep. So there's just a little bit more she wrote. I want you people to know, we women didn't have a chance. So don't judge us harshly. We drank to kill the pain and hunger, like I was saying, and unstableness of life. I felt God forgot about us now.
Mm.
Now I know that he did not. I walked as, sorry guys, I wrote this as she was saying, I walked as, I walk as a more beautiful woman in this realm that she's now. I have chosen not to re-enter the earth. I do not care of advancement. I want to stay right here where I am safe, loved, and happy. So
Oh,
basically, she's
see,
telling us she didn't want to come back. She doesn't want to come back. So she's not willing to, because a lot of times we are here for our own advancement.
mm,
And she says, nope. Not doing
Well,
it.
yeah,
Don't care.
she could. I mean, she knew what she was coming back to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, when you're kind of at the bottom of the bucket, so to speak,
Yeah.
not by choice,
Yeah.
um,
Hard
you
life.
really realize it's like,
Yeah.
but that was,
And
and
you
that was
know,
the that was the only victim that was an indoors murder, I believe.
and it was just so horrific. I mean, there's pictures online. You can't even see that it's a human.
No,
Um,
yeah,
and she had, I guess there was pictures in the room, and he had hung her entrails around the pictures. So
yeah,
he had time. The police said that he had time to be more horrific. He cut her face off. He just did everything, and he did take stuff with him. I can't remember what he took of hers with him. Um, and then even the first police, when someone called uh, the police or however they got the police, the first guy wouldn't go in there. I'm not going in there. And so they went and got a second guy, and he goes, I don't think I want to go in there either. And then finally, that when the chief came, he went in, and he said it was the most horrific thing he's ever seen.
I
I mean,
mean, they're
I
traumatized from that.
no, terribly.
I mean, being a police officer or a first responder or anything, if and I know police officers and firefighters and paramedics too, and I've heard some of the stories, and it's like the average person would be able to handle that, but it's
I don't,
somebody's got to
yeah.
do it, and this is a crime. It's a crime scene.
And take pictures
Unfortunately,
of
it's one
it.
of the
Yeah,
worst one. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, he dismembered her so much that they had to go by the clothes to figure out who this was.
And then you afterwards, you in a scene like that, any death scene, you have to take the body so it can be buried or claimed or in the morgue or wherever.
Pieces of it. Yeah,
So you have to pack it up. So you're doing that. You're basically taking pieces and just putting it in a body bag, essentially. And that's traumatizing for those people, knowing how that person
yeah.
had to exit Earth.
And as you think about it, growing up, everybody talked about, well, this had to have been a butcher or it had to have been a doctor that did this
Yeah.
because they said it was such surgically skilled. Well, and don't say anything, Brad. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But it had to be so surgically skilled to the way he did it, and how quick he had to do the ones outside. But this one, he had more time to just destroy a whole body. And
Yeah.
we'll touch base on that. But the only good thing that came out of this is that it disclosed the slums to all of society, all of London, all of England. They didn't know that there was a place like this even existed. And
Mm.
so then people started coming together and churches demanding change in the slums to demand for improvements, demand to fix the buildings, and demand for street lighting. And so unfortunately, it took this to bring people's eyes to see that these people need help. And so people started coming in.
Rightfully so. A little too late, but
Well,
if there
I
is
mean,
something like you said, if there is a positive outcome of this, it is a social change and acknowledging that, hey, these are
yeah,
people, you can't discard them, and you've got to understand that their circumstances aren't always just like everybody else's, and they still need the amenities of housing. They need the amenities of
yeah,
decent lighting and dark streets, available food. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, they're having to basically
yeah. And
defile
women just didn't have
themselves
a
to it.
chance. It
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
women didn't have a chance. And like this lady said that was doing the tours, that they had nothing. They had nothing. They didn't even have a home. The only thing they had was their body. So
Yeah.
that's what they used to make money.
And
And
people judge and turn their head, and you can't do that.
No, no. And they're people. They were married, they had children, they had families, and then their circumstances with itself could happen to anybody, and
Anybody.
unfortunately, we have health and welfare and we have, systems in place now, but maybe this brought those systems in place, you know, to take care of the extreme poor. So women didn't have to do this, you know.
Yeah.
So, like we
Um,
said, a lot of people thought it was a doctor or butcher. And then there was some talk about it being Prince Albert Victor, the Duke of Clarence and
yes, that's
Avalon. He's
right.
a grandson of Queen Victoria. And the only reason they thought this, because this was a big thing that actually I thought it might have been this guy, um, because his mom made him go to this area, Whitechapel, to serve the poor. And so he started serving the prostitutes. He started getting into this
Yeah, it
area.
was kind of one of those community services
Yeah.
that things that they have to do that,
Then he just
yeah, I
got
mean,
caught
I
up in
get
it.
it. Hmm.
Yeah. But I guess he
Yeah.
kind of had a darkness to him. And then all these stories were saying that the prostitutes went into his carriage and then he killed them in the carriage and then laid him out afterwards. And they said that's not true, that this isn't true. So, but that
Rumors
was the story
will
going around.
burn for, yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
I
all
would
those
hate to
men
be
who
known.
were accused of that is, I mean, they need the recognition for dealing with that, because when you're accused of something like that and you're innocent completely,
Yeah.
and there are men in prison now who are innocent of that and are serving time for shit they did not do, like this, or
Yeah.
assaults of certain kinds against women, and they'll do 20 years until they're exonerated because of evidence comes forth or something. And
Or
that is
DNA.
just, yeah, for DNA, or somebody confesses or whatever. And it's like, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's
Scary
awful.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, scary. Because so now we come to Brad's favorite part is
Just,
a piece of evidence was taken from the crime scene
mm,
of Catherine Eddowes, and she was the fourth or fourth victim. And if I have the story
was the
right,
fourth.
Brad, um, she had a shawl,
She
and
did.
one of the police decided to take the shawl as a souvenir. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
that's right. One
I'll
of
let
the
you talk about it.
cops. So this goes back to the chain of custody thing and the whole forensic analysis and preserving a crime scene and how evidence gets passed around. So she's victim number 4. So at this point, Jack the Ripper is kind of I'm not going to say celebrity because he wasn't, but he was kind of like I want to say, household notorious name that people were afraid of. And
Yeah,
some people think it's like, if you have Billy the Kid's original handgun that he used to rob banks with, it's like one of those things, or it's a charm, a memento of something that you were involved in because of your status as a law enforcement agent. It's like, okay, no one's going to miss this, and I'm going to hold on to it because of its shock and awe value and its notorious kind of appeal to it. People have a not necessarily a sick mindset, but there are people who want to go. I mean, I've done the tour in the Lizzie Borden house and stuff to be educated. I didn't take
yeah,
anything. I wouldn't want anything from Lizzie Borden's house. But there
yeah.
are people who want that in their own possession so they can claim that fame or whatever it is. I mean, they don't know who the officer was. At least I didn't find out what
Yeah.
happened with him. But he took this, he took it home, and he had it. I think he passed it down. I don't think it exchanged family generations. He owned it,
You
and
know,
then it
and
finally
I
went
want
up
to,
for auction.
yeah, and I want you guys to look at this shawl. That's like silk looking
Mm.
in the 1888. So that's pretty fancy.
Yeah, that
You
was a
know,
sign of status considering a prostitute had it.
for yeah, for being
Yeah.
so poor. So I was actually looking at the material and how beautiful it was that a very poor prostitute had that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
no telling. She probably, maybe she stole it, maybe a John gave it to her, maybe she had it, but
well, one of the
yeah.
prostitutes had a bought herself a fancy hat, and that was what the Ripper, took it off her head and placed it above her head when he took her out. So she was very proud of her fancy hat that she bought. So maybe that's like, secondhand that she said I'll, buy it from someone that needed food or drink or something.
And it might have also been, you know, the fancier stuff you have, the more attention you're going to get from men. So maybe she
Oh,
got
that's
more.
true.
There was a way of drawing in more clients. But
That's true.
the forensics on this were interesting. The silk shawl recovered from the crime scene. So again, who's handling what at a crime scene? When all that's going on and it's not bagged and tagged and marked, and the chain of custody is put into place like police work is today,
Yeah.
if a cop got caught doing something like that today, they'd be in
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah.
You know, tampering with evidence is a felony, from my understanding. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe it's a felony. And I mean, you can do some serious time for it, and you would not be a police officer anymore in today's society if you got caught doing that, taken, especially from a victim of a horrible crime, because you want a memento of it.
And
That just goes to show you.
a serial.
Yeah.
They knew by the fourth victim that this was a serial killer.
Yeah. And then what happens with it? You know, there's issues of contamination when it's passed around. So there's probably other people's DNA on it. Anytime you touch something, you leave something behind. So
Yep.
it makes the interesting thing about this is, with today's, if it wasn't for today's forensic science, none of this would have happened.
True.
And
True, true.
because it's so analytical and detailed, they know how to separate what's authentic blood versus blood that's more recent, or hair, or whatever. And they really go over these things. Like this garment, they scan every probably square millimeter by it, and it probably takes
Yeah.
days, if not weeks, to be able to get all of that data in until they find something. I think I believe,
It was
let me
blood.
bring him. It was both. Let me bring it up here.
Oh, because
Yeah.
ick.
So yeah, I
But
know it was.
it,
I know what you're
yeah, the
saying.
DNA matches. Yeah. So they
The
found it
it
right, the DNA matching her
Right. So
DNA.
this is an article from Science Magazine based on the paper, and I'll put this in the show notes too. So
Oh,
any
okay.
any nerds want to look at this.
You can
So
read it. We're not going to read it to you.
yeah,
Are you
well,
going
I
to read
mean,
it?
just the highlight. No, just the highlights
Okay.
right there. I mean, the shawl is speckled with blood and semen, and it's the latter of the two, which is the semen that was from the
I don't know if we
killer
can
that
say
they
that
were
on YouTube.
identifying.
Can we say that word on YouTube?
Yeah, I guess I was just
Okay.
pointing this out. But yeah,
Okay.
the type of testing that they did went back to be able to identify it to the maternal side of the family. So both,
Yeah.
and that's both
Yeah.
the victim and the perpetrator's DNA. That type of mitochondrial DNA testing um, was it identified the maternal side.
Yeah.
So is there 110% accuracy? Not necessarily, if you want to be scientific and nitpick about it, but the
But it's
fact
pretty
is
close.
it's pretty damn close. And this is the
I
first
think it was
time support.
99,
Yeah, the first time
99.8.
supporting DNA evidence been published in a peer-reviewed journal for this case, and this type of test um, matched the living relative of. Do we want to say the name?
Well, show us picture. You have his picture?
Yeah, well, I highlighted it here, so anybody who's reading
Oh,
it, of
oh yeah.
Kaminsky. So
His
the
name's,
gentleman that,
yep,
yeah, that they pinpointed was this guy. This is a
Aaron
composite drawing.
Kosminski. Yep. And
Yep.
this is the man. This is Jack the Ripper. I believe this is actually him. And this young man lived in the Whitechapel area, and he also struggled with mental illness and eventually was institutionalized. And when he was eventually institutionalized, the killings stopped. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead. Let me
No, so
tell you about Aaron. Is that all right?
please.
Okay, Aaron Kosminski was born in 1865, and he was a Polish barber. And I'll let Brad talk about this in just a second. Um, he was a Polish Jew who immigrated from Poland to England in 1880. He worked as a hairdresser in Whitechapel, East End of London. In 1891, he was institutionalized after threatening his sister with a knife. So he had a brother and a sister and an aunt and uncle, and they actually all lived together. And then it said he actually was just a barber, kind of. He only just did it once in a while. He just really didn't like to work. And so his family supported him. So I'm going to let you talk about why it's very interesting that I started laughing when I heard he was a hairdresser. I went, "Are you kidding me? A hairdresser?" So go ahead, Brad. Tell
Well,
us what
yeah, I
real
mean,
hairdressers were.
yeah, hairdressers, and he wasn't what you would think of today as a hairdresser. He would, I mean, technically barber, and he
Yeah.
had access to razors because back in the day they used the straight edge old school razors, and it was a craft that you had to kind of be very skilled with the blade and scissors and the tools of the trade in order to be a proficient skilled barber. Otherwise, I mean, you slit somebody's throat, cut their face, whatever. And men all the time went in for a shave and a trim all the time. So that was kind of the thing. So he knew how to handle a blade, so he was skilled with it. But yes, it's interesting you pointed out they finally had him committed after a an episode where he pulled a blade
Altercation with
on
the sister.
sister, not any of the men, the
Nope.
female
Sister.
in the house, a sister.
Yep.
It goes back to the misogynistic ideations to where they have these hallucinations or paranoias, and they develop this disdain for females. Uh, you want to
But
compare it to
also,
something modern is Ted Bundy,
yeah.
same thing. He had a disdain for women.
But also being a hairdresser, you also were a what? You were a surgeon.
You are a surgeon.
He was a
Technically, you
trained
are a
surgeon.
surgeon.
Yep.
Yep.
Most
And
hairdressers were taught to be trained surgeons. So he
mm-hmm,
also could had skills of taking off warts, removing things off of people. And
mm-hmm,
so that's why this is so important because hair or barbers were also skilled surgeons
yep. And there's a history that
back
I don't
then.
know the exact story with the barber pole, the red and white and blue that
Oh yeah, that's
spins
right.
there. Yeah, barber gave me one time. He gave me the schooling on it when he went to barber college. Something means the blood and the blue and the white and the reason it's spiraling down. And he said generally a lot of times back in the day, barbers were also surgeons or they
Yeah.
did small procedures, like you said,
Yep.
removing
Yep.
lesions and stuff like that from
Yep.
the body.
Yep.
So they
They
had to
could
be
do
skilled
so.
with the
Yep.
blade. Yeah.
Yeah, they were very skilled. And actually, this lady that did the tour in London brought that up. She brought that up that they're taught and to be that. And so he was sent. He had to have threatened his sister pretty bad, and probably escalating because he's
Yeah.
kind of stopped killing. So that had to have been pretty bad for them to send him to a mental institution. Um, they did say it's possible schizophrenia. and he was put into a lunatic asylum that they had back then. Um, he
Lunatic.
had, yeah, they called it lunatic.
Is that what they call?
Remember?
I know, I know. That's so
They used to call
PC.
him
That's
that.
so politically incorrect today. But
So,
yeah, back then they used
I know.
whatever. Yeah, I get it. I know.
So yeah, and so now we're going to talk about his illness that they had found when he was there. He had auditory hallucinations and voices in his head telling him to
Hmm.
do these things. Paranoia, fear of
Yep.
being, this is weird, fear of being fed by other people drove him to pick up and eat his food on the floor.
Yeah, they have paranoia, and sometimes they won't even. Same thing with if they accept water, they won't drink it sometimes because they think they're being poisoned. So it's the whole
Ah,
paranoia that everyone's has something out for them and is trying to get them. So
yeah.
and it's interesting though because just back up really quick to the attack on the sister. Something tells me they were already aware of his behavior and
Yeah,
his illness, but when
yeah,
it gets to the point where you're pulling a blade on your sister, the next thing
a
is
knife.
he's going to end
Yeah,
up he's going to end up stabbing his sister or killing
yeah.
her. So you need immediate intervention in something like that, and you need to remove, and I understand it's illness, but you need to remove the possibility of it escalating immediately. And that is another social blind spot so many people have. It's like, oh, that's my brother, he just gets like that because of his illness. Well, it may be the illness that triggers the next thing and you're not able to manage it, and it's a social blind spot because we think he's sick, he's my brother, he
Well,
wouldn't do that. And yeah.
and Brad,
And
I mean, unfortunately, the family in Hollywood have just
mm-hmm,
gone through this, where
exactly.
they, I really do believe that, I say his name, Rob Reiner,
Mm-hmm.
loved his son and his wife, and they really tried hard to help
Yep.
him, and they didn't want to let that go, and he went, and so now they're saying that he kind of had the same behavior. They're actually saying that schizophrenia, he was on a medication, and it actually made him do this. It made him crazier, this schizophrenic
So it probably
medication.
counteracted with what was going on.
Yeah. And so,
Wow.
unfortunately, that event happened, really similar into this line of this, unfortunately. But I
Yeah.
really do feel that the family loved their son, and
Oh,
they did
undoubtedly.
everything possible to save him. And maybe that's how this family also, they knew of the problems. They knew he probably was, and this is actually a young picture of him. I believe when he was taken in, he had a mustache. He was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he refused to bathe.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
cause for insanity, they wrote down, was self-abuse, which is recorded as, see if I can say this right, euphemism for
Euphemism. Okay.
masturbation. Um, Recorded in February 1919. As he wasn't eating, and so he was 96 pounds and died at 53. Um, so
Ah, that's like nothing.
that was what? Yeah,
96 pounds. That's like a skeleton with skin.
yeah, yeah. And so the killing started in 1888, and pretty much they think ended when he, and the police, it's funny that they said that the police kind of suspected this guy all along. They had eyes
They
on
did.
him.
They
They just
surveilled
didn't
them
have
too.
evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, a little
So
too late, but
they also are thinking that there was from 1888 to 1891, there was 11 women uh, around Whitechapel that died. Seven victims had their throats slashed. Four cases were of body mutilation, and five cases show similarities of both.
Okay.
So that was written too. Um,
Mm.
so it
But
one of the
we
constables
can we
in
don't really
go
have any
ahead.
ties though to him though with those others.
That's no, these are just statistics.
Okay.
Um, so this is a statistic from that time frame. And as we, like you and I were talking about, there's copycat
Yep.
killers. If you got more crazies out there, that happens. You got copycat. And they said in 1894, Sir Melville MacNaughton, Assistant Chief Constable of London, um, named this guy as a suspect, that he thought this guy all along, but they just had no evidence. They had no evidence, but they did suspect him. Kosminski, this guy, had great hatred for women with strong homicidal tendencies, they wrote. And then the case notes also the paranoid schizophrenia was recorded, and he um, had unmentionable vices, they wrote, of self-abuse. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, so he probably was self-inflicted wounds of whatever kind. Um,
And what, yeah, and what he actually died of, he what lost a lot of the weight, but they say he died of gangrene of the leg.
an infection of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that took him out.
Jeez.
And he was in 1888, he was in remission of syphilis, and they did state that they think that that might have caused his mental instability, was the syphilis.
Apparently that is a side effect if it goes
Is
untreated
it?
or unmanaged.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So the all DNA points to this young man as Jack the Ripper.
It does. And I also read another article when doing homework for this. There is they haven't, I don't think they've officially said it's 100% him, simply
No,
because they need the other test. There's another test that they use now to identify an individual, but because of the amount of time that's passed in the interim, nobody knows where any of the other evidence is, etc. This is the best and most accurate test that they could use for mitochondrial DNA sampling ever regarding an open case of a serial killer this old. So
yes,
that's that is a
yes,
pretty impressive advancement in technology and science and
yeah,
medicine or biology to be able to gap 100 plus years and still get
couple
down
hundred.
to mitochondrial DNA to at least pinpoint somebody who's at least 95% the guy.
Yeah, yeah,
And there was a public outcry of the victims, the canonical five, or I should say six, that we discussed. They've come, like their ancestors, like the ancestors of these people have come forward, and they want an official, I guess, posthumous conviction of him
okay,
in
okay.
honor of their
Yeah,
ancestors who passed at
yeah,
his hand. And
yeah.
that's generations, Robin. I mean, that goes to
I
show you
know.
generations.
They're
Here you
feeling
are. You
it.
probably didn't even know Mary
Yeah,
Jane Kelly, but you're the great, 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 great niece or cousin or granddaughter, and you are
yeah,
still fighting publicly to have her uh, the, the crime solved for closure. I mean,
yeah,
generational
yeah,
trauma. We had talked about that in the past.
yeah, yeah. So, um, I think along with some of the writings from that constable, how he thought it was him and why, and now the DNA, those are some pretty strong
Yeah.
pieces of evidence. But you know what? They just didn't have anything. I mean, if they didn't keep that shawl, we wouldn't have anything.
So, in a sense, the dirty ass cop who took the piece of evidence from the crime scene,
Yeah,
it paid dividends
at the
as of
end.
2019 or whatever, to kind of give some closure and evidence as to who he was. Because this is one of these, I mean, I've heard of Jack the Ripper back when I was a kid, generations before
Of
me.
course, yeah.
He's going to be one of these household names that you hear about, just like Ted Bundy or whomever, and who are these infamous serial killers. And finally, maybe not as much, because he's definitely not the I don't want to say like yeah, infamous, but
Stereotypical.
yeah, they change the narrative, so they reframe him as the Jack the Ripper, the unsolved killer who got away with so much. So they demythologize it as Jack the
Yeah.
Ripper, from a sick killer now to a mentally disturbed individual, and the implications of it, have a different kind of interpretation by whomever, but at least you have somebody who's culpable. And that's what we want.
Well, and we're unveiling the truth.
There, wow, perfect. Very well said. That is so true. We do unveil the truth. And this was actually a fun little homework assignment, because
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
doing investigating and digging into this. And when you brought this up, this is the first time I had heard of it.
yeah, yeah. It just popped up on my feed and I opened it up and I went, we have to cover this now
Yeah.
that they actually have DNA evidence. And who's to say, Brad, that that cop didn't have a little intuition himself and saying, these cases are getting effed up, and I'm going to take this piece of evidence and I'm going to save it until it comes a day where it's going to matter. And it came a day. What year was it that they started testing it? 2000.
Well, 2019, they announced it,
Okay.
and it was before that, but they held off on announcing it because of, they didn't, the press and the media, if they got wind of it right
Uh,
away, they wanted the
yeah.
dust to settle, so to speak, until they got more results from the paper published. But
Yeah.
somebody wrote a book immediately upon hearing the results. It was the historian guy who kind of broke the story
Hmm.
here, Russell
Oh, there's a lot
Edwards.
of people
Yeah.
went against it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of theories until we actually know. But I think this is the closest, I feel, that we've come. And everything has a story. Every
Mm-hmm.
single, that's what I wanted to present, Brad and I wanted to present today, is the story of the place, of the people, the victims, and of the killer. That there
It
is
puts it all in
always a
perspective.
story. Yes.
And yeah, it reminds me of a case you worked on.
Oh, the Chicago one.
You said I
Uh,
was going to say it, but you
uh,
said it. But yeah, that one. I
uh,
didn't want to give any details, but yes, that
yeah,
one. Still
yeah.
open jar on that.
It is because it is actually kind of on the same thing. I can't say a lot about it because it's still open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it it's a horrific crime,
Mm-hmm.
and no one seems to be doing anything about it. And when they brought
Some
me
some
in,
similarities. A
I
blade
I
was
I said,
used.
yeah, I got everything for you. Here it is. And then they just sat on it. They just sitting on it, and it drives me crazy, And I thought, okay, I'm done, you know. And I have to tell you that this crime, cold case, the spirit of this young man that was taken out, um, he's actually turned out to be quite a great, um, how do I say it? By being intuitive and seeing dead people, he's like my friend. I know this sounds weird, but
No,
he's
it
like
doesn't.
my friend. And every time I'm in my car, and this has happened for years and years and years, if the music group, The Cars comes on, he says, that's me saying hi to you, and I'm sitting right next to you. And he visits me about a couple times a month, and I just hear him in my head. And I think, did I send you the picture of the crosses that were on my window that
Yeah.
were etched in ice?
Yeah,
So
you
it was a
did.
really icy day. And unfortunately, in this case, I'm not going to say too much,
Whew, I'm
but
getting goosebumps. Go ahead.
the parents of this young man that was killed, they died within a year. Mom, cancer gone, dad, heart attack gone. I think they just died of a broken heart. They were a very close family, and there's a brother left. Um, and so while I was doing this case, and I kind of decided to back away from it a little bit because things were just not happening. I
Overwhelming.
lifted up, yeah, I lifted up my window, and it was like super cold. It was like -10 outside. And I lifted it up, and my whole window in the kitchen was frosted over except for two crosses. There's
Mm,
like two crosses, and it was not just like a finger doing it, it was outlined. It was like an outline of two crosses. And I went, that was them. That was them letting me
yeah.
like, thank you. And actually, my whole life started as an intuitive and working with the Bigfoot after that. It's kind of like they told me there's so much more you can do, and we're going to show you. And then they started like bringing things into my life, and then I started evolving into who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And and actually, the dad, um, I don't like to see apparitions. I'll see in my mind, I'll have it play out like a movie, but I don't want you standing in front of me. So
Yeah.
I remember I was standing in my front room and I had like this bay window. And I look outside and there's this man standing in the street. And I go, and he's facing, looking right at me. And I go,
Uh,
well, that's weird. What's this man doing standing in the street? So I stand there for a while and I know exactly what he had on. And I go, he kind of looks like this man that I was doing a cold case on,
mm.
like an older. And then a car came up and drove right through him.
Oh,
And I went,
jeez.
oh. I go, oh.
Yeah.
And so then I talked to a family member and I described the scene and I said, Did did the dad always wear this and this? And she goes, always. That's always what he wore. White t-shirt and jeans. Always. And that's what I saw. And I described him because I never saw him, what he looked
Is that
like.
the only
And
time you
I
saw
said,
him?
yeah, yeah, that was it. It was almost like there's a reason why sometimes they manifest. And he was far enough away, I wasn't scared, but I was very
Mm-hmm.
complex by this man. And he looked 3D until the car came through.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was kind of either a thank you or a message because it was like after winter. So it was months later where I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I had to call say that.
Yeah.
So I think we better
Oh,
go because my earbuds are gonna die.
yeah. No worries. Just everybody, thank you for watching.
Yes.
Like, subscribe. You can even hype the video. That would be even great. And we are going to be
Mhm.
coming back next week with Morgan Lynn, trauma informed coach, intuitive guide,
Yeah.
author, speaker, spiritual mentor, 20 plus years navigating people's challenges and helping them find themselves through emotional distress, spiritual distress. And she is the author of The Spirited Human, Proactive Tools for a Reactive World, and the creator
Yep.
of her own. She has her own Oracle deck called The Sovereign
We'll talk
Path as
more.
well. Yep.
And we're gonna be
So,
live. So we'll put up a link that we're gonna
yep.
be live next week and we're gonna be live from now on.
That's right, because we want y'all to we want to see a chat going and everybody to
Yeah.
join. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. We love
Thank
y'all.
you
Thank you
guys.
for tuning in. Bye, Robin.
See you.
Good night.